Hey everyone, and welcome to my World of Warships replay for the Jupiter 42. The goal of these replays is not to show how amazing I am at the game, but rather to walk through my mindset and my decision-making process as I play. For the record, I'm a 54% win rate player, so I'm not bad, I'm slightly above average, certainly not amazing, but I find it instructive to watch other people and the way they play. I love the Jupiter 42. I think it's a really great little destroyer. What you see me doing here is I'm looking at this Turgid Race, if I pronounce that correctly. I have no idea what that ship is, so I'm checking it out. Still not really entirely sure what that ship is. My thinking here, of course, the first thing I notice is that there's two Tier 8 CVs, so I know I'm immediately in trouble. I'm going to have to play somewhat passively, which is a problem because the Jupiter 42 is best played somewhat aggressively, and I noticed that I outspot just barely all of the destroyers on the other team. So my goal here, and spoiler alert, I'm about to do a bad job of accomplishing that goal, is to try to spot the enemy ships on my flank without getting spotted myself and taking a lot of damage, and I am not going to do a good job of that. What I'm thinking right now is whether I want to head to the island that's just ahead of me and to the right, or whether I think I can make it all the way to the one that is a little bit to the left. I definitely want to be in a position where I can duck behind some kind of island if the planes head my way, but I can see both of the CVs and they both launch planes and they're actually not headed my way. So I'm thinking at the moment that I'm safe to play somewhat more aggressively, which is actually a misplay, which you're going to see here in a second. One of the things I love about the Jupiter 42 is the 6 short-term smokes. So I really, really love those smokes because they're not sit in the smoke and farm smokes. They're kind of 6 get-out-of-jail-free cards. So if you make a slight misplay, you can activate them, and one of the things I like about them is that the first puff of smoke happens almost immediately, unlike some other destroyers. So I still don't see anyone. I'm thinking at this point that I'm going to head for that first buff that's just to my left. That turns out to be a bit of a mistake. But I've now spotted the Hatsuharu, and this is my first misplay. I open up on the Hatsuharu. I should never have done that. That was a big mistake. I should have left that to my friends in the back. The Jupiter 42's guns are too floaty to hit anyone at this range. Second mistake I'm immediately making is that I'm not situationally aware. I'm not paying attention to what's going on around me. So I'm about to get hit and take damage, and that happened off screen, and I actually don't know who hit me. I think it's the North Carolina. At least I have the presence of mind to hit the speed boost and start to get out of there, but at this point I get greedy and I think, well, I can still get this buff. Not the world's worst idea. Works out okay, but I probably should have just headed away from the Atago, and I might not have taken that last bit of damage. One of the problems with the Jupiter 42 is that it doesn't get any kind of heal. Of course, that's common with destroyers of this tier, but still. I do manage to pick up the buff. Totally not worth it. I'm about to make another major misplay, and one of the things I really like about this particular replay is I'm not going to do an amazing job by any means, but it's an instructive lesson in how not to tilt. So you see here, I'm convinced that I can slow down in time for this torpedo, and I am wrong. So I am now, what, less than 4 minutes into this game, and I have 2.4k hit points. Even worse, I'm still going to charge forward towards the Hatsuharu, which is obviously a big mistake. I'm at least going to hit my smoke here. I'm thinking that I can farm damage on the North Carolina, which I am about to do. But anyway, my larger point is I could easily have tilted at this point and just gotten mad at myself and given up and lost my ship, and I didn't do that. I still played reasonably well throughout the rest of this game. And spoiler alert, I'm actually not going to explode in this game. I'm not going to die. I'll survive the whole match. Now, part of the reason that that happens is because As you can see, this is an arms race game, and I am slowly regaining hit points. I really like the guns on the Jupiter 42. They're amazingly productive into even BBs. One thing you'll notice is I'm running the smoke timer. You can see it there in the center left of the screen. And that's immensely helpful because it makes sure that you don't make that one last shot after the smoke puffs disappear. And my teammates are going to take care of the North Carolina. I did do 16.9k to him, so not a bad job. Not a bad job. I'm looking out for the Hatsuharu. I finally hit my
smoke generator started.
Hydro way too late. This is another misplay. I'm going to let him hit me, which is a big mistake. But I'm going to blind fire into his smoke. Really close to dying here. But I don't. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, as my dad used to say. I'm now past 5.7k, so I can get away from the Hatsuharu. And I can still spot him for a little while. Because he fired. Because he shot. And my teammates are going to do some good damage to him. At this point, I'm trying to debate how I can be helpful. I obviously can't take any combat. I'm going to launch these torps. They're never going to work. The torps on the Jupiter 42 are amazingly helpful sometimes, but they're only 7 kilometers. I'm radared here. I'm actually not sure at this point who that is. I believe it's this Turget race that I still don't know what that is.
Smoke generator started.
I'm smoking up my BB friend here, my Scharnhorst. Hope to give him a little bit of cover. I'm going to do a little damage to the Hatsuharu, but he's going to get taken out by the Scharnhorst, which is great. So I'm now free to farm a little damage on this BB. And now you see the enemy team starting to disintegrate psychologically. They're starting to complain about each other in chat, which is never a good sign, or I guess it is a good sign for us.
Torpedoes to start.
Because this is an arms race battle, I know that any minute now the giant center circle is going to open, and my mind is thinking about that Colorado that's charging into that center area. I'm thinking, well, maybe I can get to him. Unfortunately, I'm not as helpful as I otherwise could be if I had a little more hit points, but fortunately my team is going to clean this one up. But I am going to try and push that gap, avoid these torpedoes, and charge that Colorado, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, Scharnhorst is going to go down here in front of me.
Torpedoes dead ahead.
Shout out to the CVs in my game, especially this Chikhalov. Doing a really good job of spotting and also taunting the enemy CV.
Smoke generator started.
I'm smoking here for 2 reasons. One is to avoid the planes, and the other is so I can farm a little damage on this Colorado. Again, keyword being little damage.
Screen set.
I am actually going to yoink this kill. Feel a little bad about that, but it is what it is. I wasn't doing it on purpose. So I only have 24k damage in this game, but I have 54k spotting. And I feel like after the initial series of misplays, I've played this relatively well. My goal now is to get that buff, and then also to get into the ACAP and seal the deal. I'm also thinking about where that Colorado is headed, the other Colorado, not the one that just blew up on the enemy team, but the one that's all the way over in E8. I'm imagining he's going to try to enter the center circle. Trying not to get spotted by these
Engine
planes.
boost
I'm going to
deactivated.
fail. The Colossus will spot me. I think if the Colossus was a slightly better player, he probably would have headed towards me instead of the Chikholov, but the Chikholov has really gotten under the skin of the enemy team, and the red mist has descended, and they've decided that they're going to take him out come hell or high water. One of the things I love about World of Warships is it really is such a mental game. Of course, tactical skill is important, but it often winds up coming down to mindset. And at this point, no one's going to stop me or the North Carolina from entering the ACAP. There's just... The only way they could really stop me is if the CVs realized what was happening and they targeted me, which is what they should be doing. But I don't think their CV players are particularly experienced, and they're not going to do that. And honestly, even if they did, I have 2 smokes left, so it would be an uphill battle. The enemy team, on paper, is not really in that bad of a position. They're only 1 ship down, and several of our ships are on low health, including me. So if they just focused me and the Ismail, they might have been able to pull this out. Probably not, but maybe. But their current tactic is nothing but a slow death. They're going to let us grab the ACAP here. They don't even seem to be trying to prevent us, and that's on a arms race map. That's just instant death. You can't do that. You have to respect this cap. It generates way too many points. Again, I love the Jupiter 42. It's so maneuverable. The rudder shift is really, really good. I'm just going to swing easily around these rocks. Top speed's not bad. You see I'm pushing 38 knots, and I don't even have my speed boost up. This game is pretty much over. At this point, it's too late. Even if they wanted to, there's not much they could do. We're going to have this cap any minute now. Unless I made a horrible misplay and, for example, charged that gap ahead of me or something equally dumb. There's just not much they can do. So I'm not going to do that. It was tempting to launch torpedoes here, but I really don't think that the cruiser is actually going to push that gap, especially not at the pace he's currently going.
Engine boost activated.
Our victory is in sight.
One of the things you notice is that the enemy team now has no DDs left. It's a truism and a trope, but it's true in World of Warships that DDs get more and more powerful as the game goes on. So just the fact that I've managed to survive this long is a plus for my team. Again, I'm certainly not claiming that I played terribly well in this match. Obviously, the first couple minutes were a total clown show. But in some ways, I find this game more instructive, at least for myself, because it's interesting to think about, well, what do I do when the first couple minutes go particularly badly, especially when it feels like it's my fault, which most of that first few minutes definitely was. That was not bad luck, that was me misplaying several times in a row. And I'm sailing around this corner hoping to get some shots in, but game over. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that playthrough in the Jupiter 42. See you next time.